think it works best if we pass it back and forth, and because it's best if it's within like a foot of your mouth. Like it's, um, if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Steve Friedmann, and I am a real estate lawyer and also a real estate developer. And the properties and real estate that I develop are for the most part in Southern California. And our asset class is multifamily, which is apartment buildings. And we do what's called ground up development, meaning we build structures from the dirt as opposed to maybe buying or rehabilitating existing structures. And I am 62 years old, and I graduated college from UC Berkeley in 1982, and I graduated law school in 1985. I took the bar exam 4 times before I finally passed it, and then realized I didn't really want to be a lawyer, and I worked in the real estate industry for the most part ever since. Um, I would describe myself as an entrepreneur, and I am a partner in my company, and I have what are called sponsorships, or they're also sometimes referred to as syndications. And what that means is if we find a project that we want to go after and we want to build, we have to go out and raise capital. And to raise capital, we attract limited partners or investors that will also pitch money in hopes of getting a good return on their investment. And I'm usually the general partner of a partnership like that, which comes with lots of responsibility, including having to borrow the money from banks, hire the consultants, and of course find the projects to work on. So I would be certainly in that category of an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs take risk, calculated risk, to make money, and you have to get better and better at taking these risks over time. Otherwise, you don't end up with profitable projects.
Have you ever been in charge of hiring or managing a team of employees at your business?
It's a very open environment in so much as we try not to have a lot of hierarchy, but instead understand what various tasks and roles people are assigned. Sometimes those lines get blurred and we help each other out, and other times we accidentally step on each other's toes and we look like Keystone cops trying to solve a simple problem. But you, like all things, you try not to repeat your mistakes and you try to learn from your mistakes. So we're we're constantly talking and constantly asking ourselves how we can do things better. So I would say we have a healthy amount of reflection and self critique as we move through different projects, and we make mistakes along the way. But we're open about it, and we try not to personalize it. We try to just be constructive and be a little smarter about the next project or the next challenge.
That makes sense. And moving away from your team and focusing more on you in specific now, are there any particular habits or routines throughout your day that have contributed to your success?
Well, I think taking care of yourself, taking care of your mind and your body, of course, is important, because if you're not healthy and you're not taking care of yourself, then uh, ultimately stress or illness is going to become, a debilitating part of your career. So I would say take care of yourself, take care of your health, and try to take care of the people around you. Setting good examples for people is important. I try not to party too much or drink and do all that kind of stuff in and around employees. I think it's important to maintain an arm's length relationship with employees, and I'm not at a point in time, and our company is not such that we all go out together and fraternize and do a bunch of team building stuff. It's really more come to the office with your game face on. Let's get stuff done, and then what people do in their personal life or on their weekends is really pretty much entirely up to them, and it's their business. But as long as everyone shows up on Monday and is ready to go, then I think we all kind of share that common goal of wanting to get better and wanting to improve. And in our case, we want to try to please our tenants, and we want to make sure that our customers are happy, and we try to keep them on the forefront of everything we do. And we find that what that does in our business is it makes for happier tenants, and that means they stay in the buildings longer, and we have less turnover. And with less turnover, we have greater profitability.
Can you describe how you approach balancing your work and personal life uh, while managing a business, and what has kept you driven to continue advancing throughout your career?
I don't think there's any one perfect answer for that question. I think it depends on your upbringing, and it depends on some of your values as a person. We've My wife and I have always put our family first and our kids first before any job or any profit driven idea. And and so the balance, I think, is knowing that we have a secure home and that we've raised our kids the right way is far more important than how much money we make, number one. And then number two, I think that part of striking a healthy balance is being forgiving. And I always like to use the golf analogy that we're all going to hit bad shots, but it depends on how you respond to those bad shots and how you react to those shots. And if you let them bring you down or get you down, then you're not going to be ready for the next challenge or in golf the next shot. So I'm always trying to um, accept our mistakes, but also move away from them and stay positive and stay upbeat about what we're doing.
That makes sense. And I would almost add on that the point in your life might make a difference. at least in my experience, the environment that you're currently in can affect how you balance work life and personal life. Um, are there any qualities or aspects of yourself that you believe were instrumental in towards your success as an entrepreneur? And do you think leadership and entrepreneurship tendencies are something that one is born with or something that somebody can learn?
I think I don't think there's any absolutes. I think some good leaders are probably born good leaders, and there's other good leaders that just had to earn it with hard work and lots of mistakes and kind of school of hard knocks. But I think the quality that has helped me maybe is persistence and consistency and determination. Um, so bringing all of those qualities to kind of whatever we're doing and wanting to get things right and deliver sort of a quality product is something that I think I think has helped with the success that we've achieved. And I guess if I was to also reflect a little bit on what I'm seeing in terms of people's success that I didn't particularly follow very well would be that this notion that is going around is very popular right now. I think the guy that wrote the book was Gladwell. Maybe it was called The Tipping Point, where his idea is basically that if you're going to become an expert at something or you're going to become really, really great in your field, you have to put in 10,000 hours. So, the Beatles, they didn't just suddenly become great musicians and songwriters. They practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And, same with great musicians and it's pretty rare that somebody just has an innate gift like that. And so I guess upon reflecting on my career, I never got to the point where I knew exactly what I wanted and was willing to just do that over and over and over and become the best at that. I kind of moved, I sort of zigzagged between wanting to be a lawyer and then starting to really like real estate and then trying to figure out what parts of real estate would combine some of the strengths and weaknesses, and then it just sort of occurred to me that ownership was one of the ways to try to consistently grow my wealth and my portfolio. And whether we were acquiring little rental houses or building apartment buildings, for me, the goal was always get to the point where you had ownership and then our tenants would have to send us checks at the end of the day. And that's a pretty simple concept, but it's a tough thing to achieve, whether you're trying to buy your first condo, house, apartment building. It takes some learning and it takes some determination to get to that place.
That makes sense. Looking at the position that you are in today, could you narrow it down to any single decision that you made that was the most influential? I phrased that weirdly, but I think you understand what I'm getting at.
I guess I wouldn't say that there was any one, moment in time where some light bulb went off, but I think that I always have had an appetite to learn and to be challenged by situations, which was one of the things that turned me off about the practice of law, because it seemed to me that everyone after law school had to pick a particular type of law, whether they wanted to be a prosecutor or they wanted to be a personal injury lawyer or they wanted to be an immigration lawyer. And to me, the thought of doing the same type of work day in and day out over and over and over again seemed dull, and I wasn't attracted to it. So I sort of meandered around after law school, and I ended up working with real estate developers and finding that there were all sorts of different things that had to happen, and there was an orchestration of events that had to come together to get a project out of the ground and something successfully built and developed. And to me, that sort of mosaic, or that, all putting all of those parts together to make something good of it, always felt like a great challenge. And if you wake up feeling challenged by something and you wake up feeling motivated, then you're going to probably bring more energy and you're going to bring more effort to it. If you wake up feeling like I'm stuck and I'm on the same, rat wheel going around and around and around, and everything's the same, and you're doing the same thing over and over, then it would be tough to be motivated to go faster.
No, you have to find fulfillment by challenging yourself.
And by changing stuff up every now and then. It's okay to change it up, or ask for that promotion, or switch companies. Sometimes you look up and go, I like what I'm doing, but I'm not crazy about
Yeah. Um, for our final question, if you could relive your professional career, would you do anything differently? And if so, what would that be?
Well, the answer is I wouldn't do anything differently, because I like the outcome of my family life and I like what's happened in that aspect of my life. So if, you know, I couldn't imagine trying to redo it and spend more hours doing something else for somebody else, because I don't know what effect that would have had on my family. But I think that if I were to just try to maybe rescript some of the stuff that I've been through, highs and lows in my career, I suppose I would have been a little bit more aware of the other businesses in whatever industry that I found myself in that were doing it the best. And I think I would have probably gone to those businesses and looked for a way to get in, like I just said. But what happens to most of us is once we get a job, I think we tend to be somewhat loyal, because you're getting a paycheck and they give you a T-shirt with the company logo, and you're surrounded by a bunch of fellow employees, and you start to feel like you're part of a team, right? And so for you just one day to wake up and go, I don't want to play for the Lakers anymore. I'm going to go play for the Boston Celtics. Well, that takes a certain type of personality to want to switch teams like that and just go for something completely different. But I I think that sometimes the people that get ahead, when I look at some of the resumes of some of these CEOs, it's not unusual for them to have held senior positions at other companies in their industry, but they had the courage, or they had the tenacity, or whatever it is, this the spark to want to move on and work with other companies, and in so doing go to a higher level. So that would be something that I think, looking back, I probably could have and maybe should have done more of. And in so doing, maybe I would have found myself learning more faster, and getting to a place where I would have been better, because I would have probably been surrounded by people that were doing it better, if that makes sense. It's kind of like if you could go out and hit tennis balls with a bunch of guys that you were much better than every day, and you're just beating them, and you're always the number one guy. That's one thing. But if I said to you, "Hey, I want to take you over here, and most of these guys over here can either beat you, or you're going to be at their level," are you the type of guy that's going to want to go play with the better players and get beat? Or are you the type of guy that just wants to beat up on every guy that you're beating? I mean, it feels good to win, but you're also there's that part of you that's going, but wait a minute, am I really getting better because I'm winning, or should I actually be over with these big heavy hitters, and maybe I can even get a little bit better? So that's the analogy.
That could maybe
If you allow yourself to be, um, you got to be sort of forgiving of yourself. It's not an easy concept to explain, but and it's not. I go back to sports analogies all the time. Because you're a tennis player, you know what it's like when you hit a bad shot, or you hit the ball into the net. Are you going to take the racket and smash it, and whack yourself in the leg, and scream at the sky, or do you pick yourself up and kind of quietly go back and regroup, and think, okay, I'm going to preserve all that energy, and I'm going to just be better on the next point. And I think that takes a lot of maturity, and if you're like most people, you don't like to lose. You don't like to be told, you're doing that wrong, or go do it this way. Don't do it. Don't listen to that guy. And so sometimes it's hard to allow yourself to like you said, to realize that in the tough times, and when you're struggling, that's actually that pain, if you will, is actually some of the best learning that you can do. And so when you're in those high pressure situations in a tennis match, and you've hit a bunch of balls into the net before, you don't want to do that again. You got to get it over the net, and you got to keep it in play. And the only way for you to know that is to have made some of those mistakes, and know that maybe my tendency here is I get too quick and the ball goes into the net. It's like, okay, slow myself down. Let's get the point going on my terms, and then it's a better outcome. But the only way you're going to get to that is by recognizing that you're going to have certain strengths, you're going to have certain weaknesses, but if you can turn those weaknesses into ways to learn, and to be a little bit better, then you're going to be a stronger all-round player ultimately.
that's very well said, and that advice uh, goes far beyond the business world.
Yeah, it does. And so it goes into goes into um, everything from friendships and how you treat your friends, and um, everything takes work, right? Things aren't just going to be handed to you. This is part of why I'm encouraging you to think about not just junior college, but maybe where do you want to be for junior college? Would it be more painful for you to move up, move all of your stuff, move yourself and all of your clothes to San Diego, or would it be tougher just to stay in your bedroom and take your bike every day down to Pierce College? And the answer is it'd be a hell of a lot easier just to go to Pierce and to come right back here to your bedroom. But I say take the thing on that's something that's a challenge that that you can probably take. Look, I always tell the kids, you can always come back home. You're lucky that way. You got two parents that will bring you. You can always go back, but you challenge yourself. Go out and see if you can take on a new city and a new town, and those little homesick days, and we all have them when we're young. Those are learning curve things. That's just you learning to be on your own and to grow up and to be a little bit more self-reliant and independent. And those are good qualities. Those are qualities that make you an attractive person, right? You want to be someone that I believe is independent and it can be relied upon. And for people to rely upon you, you have to be able to rely upon yourself first. So that's why I'm encouraging you to take on those short-term challenges. Don't stop challenging yourself, and that applies to business. It applies to life, and there's also studies out that everybody always says, I don't want to get stressed out, man. I don't want to be stress kills and all this stuff. There's also studies out there that say coffee's good for you, and a little bit of stress is too. It gets your adrenaline going and it gets your heart beating. Imagine if you had zero stress and you did nothing that stressed you out ever. I don't know how interesting a person you would be, but I would say you probably wouldn't be really challenging yourself. If you're challenging yourself, you're inviting some level of stress in, right? If you're going to go play against a better player, you're going like, oh shit, this guy might kill me, but you know what? I got to step up to this level. I got to try to beat this guy. I got to get better. And it's the same with life. Just take those steps towards people and situations that you're drawn to, but also challenged by.
Yeah. Well, I think stress, the whole reason it was that humans have stress is it's a survival instinct. And like you said, without it, nothing will get done. I see that when I'm playing tennis. I play by far the best tennis if there's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And I'm sure that would carry on into any other aspect of life.
It does, and it will. And look, don't forget, you're going to get beat sometimes in tennis by better players, with somebody that's just having a better day, or you may be having a terrible day. But at least you're putting yourself into that place and into that position where you can get better and you can learn more. And then I think all of this kind of presupposes another concept, which is surround yourself by people that you admire and that you want to be like. And when you find yourself in situations, whether it's at work or it's outside of work, where there are toxic people, or people that you feel like, I don't really get where this guy or gal is coming from, then follow your instincts and move away from that, and be discerning, right? Be selective about the people that you let into your life, and be selective about the habits that you form, And if you find yourself forming crappy habits, then be smart enough to go, that's a bad habit, and I got to stop that.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times in my life where I started smoking cigarettes because I was nervous, or I wanted more energy, and I convinced myself if I smoked a cigarette that I'd stay awake longer and all that stuff. But overall, I'm not a smoker, and I don't advocate it because I think it can kill you,
Yeah.
and it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's kind of an odd example of me recognizing a bad habit, but the more important part of that story was overcoming it and going, no, I'm not going to be a smoker. No, I am not going to go down to the supermarket and buy a pack of cigarettes and have cigarettes around all the time.
Yeah.
Do they occasionally smell good, and do I occasionally want a cigarette? Yes, but I know that for me to live a long life, the odds are that if I smoke less, I'll live longer, and that's what I want.
Exactly.
So, you know, not a great example, but I think you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. We went off topic, but it was very productive nonetheless.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
And
Anytime. Enjoyed it.
yeah, let me just pause this.